Hey guys, hope you're having a nice day, and let's go ahead and talk about the latest patch notes for Heroes of the Storm. I actually haven't really done these kinds of videos before, so I don't know whether you guys would want to watch this or not, but I mean, I won't know until I try, right? So let's just go straight into it. So basically this is a patch notes for August 8, 2017, and as Blizzard say, I don't know which one is correct, but their latest update for Heroes of the Storm brings a new hero, new features, and a handful of balance changes to the Nexus. So first of all, general team compositions for Quick Match. Quick Match will now prefer not to make mirror matches the same hero on both teams when other options are available. Oh my god, this is such a good change. I guess that was actually my only complaint about quick matches. I don't care about how bad the team comps are, I don't care about the matchmaking in quick matches, but playing a team of Illidan, Abyssur, whatever healer you might have, and let's say Nova in your team, and you just play versus the same exact team on the enemy team, and it just so frustrating. When you face mirrors, it's just unrewarding to play because you are at that point you are kind of almost playing a different video game, and not a good one at that, because all of the knowledge you have about your hero and how he impacts the match becomes completely redundant, because the enemy team also has this hero, so they have also all those same aspects. So now it more comes down to whether your team knows how to play against a hero that you are playing, rather than whether you can help out your team. Frustrating. Mirror matches are really frustrating for me, so I'm really glad that Blizzard finally decided to take that away from quick matches, because I mean that's a good change. That's one of the better changes for the game in my opinion. And versus AI completely removed mirror matches. Players will no longer face duplicate enemy AI heroes in this game mode. This also had to be in the game from the very beginning, I feel because there was absolutely no reason to put mirrors into versus AI matches, because you literally have the whole pool of heroes to choose from, and somehow you end up facing mirrors, which didn't make any sense. Also, whenever there were mirrors, it always felt like the matchmaker would prioritize mirror matches in order to create a more fair matchup, right? Because technically an Illidan versus Illidan matchup will always have a 50% win rate, so that would be the perfect matchup to make balance-wise, right? So I'm glad that they let's just get away from hero mirror matches. We don't want you. New hero, Garrosh. As the new warchief of the Horde, Garrosh is a proud and vicious warrior who rules with an iron fist. His hatred for the Alliance burns like wildfire, and he will stop at nothing to destroy them. By his axe, the orcs will reclaim their rightful glory. It makes zero sense. I guess they tried to add a Garrosh, the Cataclysm Garrosh to the game, I guess. Not the Pandarian Garrosh, which I would prefer if it was a Pandarian Garrosh, with the whole old gods influence and stuff like that. That would have been so cool. So I'm a little bit disappointed that Garrosh actually ended up being just a guy with an axe. And I mean, admittedly, this is Gorehowl, right? So this is an epic axe, a really good axe. But if that's what Garrosh would be, why not just add a Grom Hellscream, who would just be the same. Garrosh could have been easily be replaced by Grom Hellscream with the exact same skill set that he has right now. And then maybe later on we would have gotten Garrosh that has those old gods powers and whatnot, which would have been just absolutely crazy and amazing. But we get what we get, so oh well. So let's read about his abilities a little bit. So his straight armor up, Garrosh gains 1 armor for every 2% of maximum health missing. So it's kind of like Zul'jin effect, right? The more health you lose, the more effective you become. So I guess when healing Garrosh as a healer, you want to heal him when he's super low on health, because that way you would get the maximum benefits from your healing, right? Because effectively Like, let's say if the difference between Garrosh having 0 armor versus Garrosh having 30 armor, like if you land 100 100 health points healing onto Garrosh when he's at 0 armor, he would just get 100 health. But when Garrosh has 30 armor and you get that 100 healing, you basically gave him 130 health, like technically, right? So obviously as a healer you want to kind of manage Garrosh's health pool kind of together with him, which is that's an interesting mechanic, like because it's basically not only for Garrosh, now it also involves the healer, and like the healer of Garrosh should also manage his health, and that makes for a very interesting gameplay experience, I feel like. So I like that trait, although I don't think that it's very good, because it makes Garrosh super vulnerable to heroes that do percentage damage, or to heroes that don't do consistent damage, like the nuke type heroes, like Li Ming with her arcane orbs, or like Chromie's burst. Garrosh will be very, very vulnerable to that, because, I mean, he won't be gradually getting that armor, and like 1000 hit from Chromie would hit Garrosh for 1000 health, and only then his armor would activate, so that wouldn't really help out too much. But let's talk about his basic abilities. So his Q is Groundbreaker. Deal damage to enemies in an area. Heroes hit on the outer edge are pulled toward Garrosh. His W is Bloodthirst. Deal damage to an enemy and heal for 10% of Garrosh's missing health. Healing is increased by 100% against heroes. So again, the whole health management system, the lesser health you have, the better you heal yourself, and because not only like you heal yourself more, but also you add up the whole armor aspect to it, so you get even more healing, but like healing benefits for you. So he's very well designed, but I don't think that he will be a good hero, sadly. Like, it's just, I guess there are certain matchups. In certain matchups, Garrosh would probably really, really shine, especially with healers that do like kind of gradual healing, or like Rhaegar with an ancestral healing, or like Karazin with a divine palm, like, because it would be so hard to kill Garrosh with his 50 armor bonus, and then he just gets healed to full health and you need to start over again. So that would be probably the strong point, but with other healers I don't think he'll be really that great, and you probably need certain team comps too. Wrecking Ball. Throw a nearby enemy hero, minion, or mercenary to the target location, dealing damage to enemies near the impact and slowing them by 30% for 2.5 seconds. Okay, so this is like the first, I guess not the first, Groundbreaker would be the first like utility ability because of that displacement, but Wrecking Ball gives you a 2.5 second slow, so it basically turns you into sort of like an Arthas hero, Arthas type character, because there are other abilities that allow Garrosh to consistently slow his enemies. With his ultimate, with his Decimate ultimate, he just constantly slows people around him. So you can be like a pseudo Arthas for your team in that respect. Like, disengaging can be easy, or maybe like getting, not really like getting an engage, but like counter-attacking, like when the enemy tank tries to dive into your team to look for an engage, you just throw him, like you throw the enemy tank like into his squishy heroes, and all of them get slowed, and then your team just follows up and collapses on them. That can work out really well, but I don't know, Garrosh seems like he'll be a hero that is very hard, that has trouble engaging good fights, like looking for a good engage, but when he does pull it off, like it's almost a guaranteed kill. Like if you slam your Groundbreaker, pull, let's say, a Keltas into you, then you throw him into your team, he will inevitably die, right? So when you get an engage, it's almost always a guaranteed kill, but getting that engage can be a problem, because the best reliable engage tool that Garrosh has is his Groundbreaker, and it has a relatively short range, and if your enemies know what they are doing, it can be easily avoided, either by standing closer to Garrosh or just by standing further away. It always needs to hit in that perfect spot, in the outer edge, in order to pull somebody into Garrosh, and then you can get that Wrecking Ball off, which can be difficult. I'm rambling too much. Let's continue with his heroic abilities. Warlord's Challenge. Silence nearby heroes and force them to attack Garrosh for 1.5 seconds. So this is like an AoE taunt with silence? What is the point of silencing heroes when you force them to attack? I don't think there is one. That makes no sense. Silence nearby enemy heroes and force them to attack Garrosh for 1.5 seconds. So like, what's the point of, I guess, to interrupt things? So let's say maybe Sonya is whirlwinding. Because you silence her, she stops whirlwinding and attacks Garrosh instead of spinning. I guess that would be, I guess that's it. Huh, that's kind of weird. It doesn't really make much sense, but maybe there are some interactions where that actual silence aspect really pays off. I just can't think of any of them right now, except for that whirlwind. But I guess it can be good. Again, it requires you to somehow get into the middle of the enemy team in order to pull this off, and even then it's a very short taunt, 1.5 seconds. So like, if that's, I feel like this ultimate is just bad. Because if that's what you're planning to do, why not just play ETC with the mosh pit? It's a much longer stun, and yeah, it's a much longer stun, and it's easier to pull off than Warlord's Challenge, I feel like. Or if you are going for the whole taunt aspect and taunting somebody in order to kill them, why not just play Varian, right? So that kind of makes no sense. Okay, his second ultimate, Decimate. Deal damage to nearby enemies and slow them by 30% for 1.5 seconds. Deal 100% more damage to heroes, and each hero hit reduces the cooldown by 1 second and stores up to 3 charges. So this is what I was talking about. With the Decimate and Wrecking Ball, you can become a pseudo artist. You just constantly slow people around you, and that allows your team to reposition easier, to maybe get a better angle onto your enemies, because they won't be able to run away that easily. That's what artist does, right? Also, I guess it also enables, I guess Garrosh just in general enables heroes that have some sort of executioner mechanic. Like you have Cassia with her martial law, you have Greymane with his executioner and things like that. Raynor has executioner, so Garrosh can be used to enable those talents, and that can really pay off. So maybe that's the strength of Garrosh. You pair him up with like auto attack heroes, or heroes that can easily switch targets and quickly burst somebody down. And preferably if they have executioner, and you just play around that. I guess that's it, right? That's mostly it, because if you throw somebody in, you want them to die. So heroes like Greymane, or heroes with constant damage output, like most auto attackers, can easily just switch targets and start pummeling those squishy characters that you throw into them, which can be good, I guess. Okay, Artanis, Daedalam, Artanis Twin Blades activation effect is now green to match the color of his warp blades. Okay then. User interface, general armor indicators. Armor buff and debuff indicators have been added next to hero health bars. Well, there were already indicators, but now they show the exact armor amounts, which is really helpful, because I feel like, I don't know, sometimes I had trouble figuring out how much armor somebody has exactly, because with all of the buffs and debuffs, like you have, let's say, Tyrande using her Hunter's Mark, and then somebody uses their Hardened Shield or whatever, and then Uther heals them, giving them extra armor, and like it was kind of hard to calculate at times, so you didn't always know whether it's worth trying to kill somebody or not. Because if they had, like, let's say 20 extra armor and you miscalculated that, then all of your damage would be most of your damage would be wasted on that hero, because they would be healed up, and then your whole team would die because you prioritized the wrong target and they didn't die, and now your team is dying because you wasted all of your damage onto somebody that didn't matter too much. So it's a good change overall, I feel like. Then we have cursor cooldown notifications. An option to display ability cooldowns indicators near your mouse cursor has been added. This feature can be enabled or disabled in the options menu. I actually tested that, and it seems, to me, it seems bad. Like looks kind of annoying, because what it does is, let's say you have your Q ability on cooldown, so you have your mouse, your mouse is over the enemy hero, and then you press Q, and because the ability is on cooldown, there will be like a small thing will appear on the screen, and it will tell you that your Q is on cooldown for next 2 seconds, and it will appear at where your mouse cursor is pointing at. So it just, my first impressions were that it was kind of annoying to look at, and it was also hard to track at the same time. Like, it wasn't intuitive to collect that information, to take that information in and make and react to that. Like, it just felt like I would need to spend time in order to read that cooldown thing and to process it, and only then I would realize that my ability is on cooldown, right? So it just seemed much easier to just press the button. Okay, my skill shot didn't go off, I'm gonna wait for it, or I'm just gonna quickly look at the bottom of my screen and read all of my cooldowns instead of only one of them. So just that, it felt a little bit weird. MVP banners. The MVP player's banner will now show in the initial MVP screen. So now not only your banners show up when you capture mercenaries or bosses or whatever, or kill keeps, they would also show up on the MVP screen next to you if you are the MVP person. So like, just your banner will be slapped right there. So that's kind of a neat choice, because you never really paid attention to like those banners in the game itself. So this is kind of a good way to bring them to the spotlight a little bit. In-game chat improvements. The in-game chat box can now be moved by clicking and dragging the directional arrow indicator seen when the chat box is open, double-clicking the directional arrow indicator when the chat box is open will reset the position of the chat box. In-game chat history can now be accessed using the page up, page down hotkeys. A timestamp option has been added to display in-game times before chat messages, and hero names will now display as hero icons to the left of messages in chat. Okay, these are kind of like decent changes. First of all, timestamps are really useful, because sometimes somebody would type like into a chat, let's do a mercenary camp, and then nobody reads it, and then somebody opens it up like 10 minutes later and, oh, let's do a mercenary, okay, everyone will be doing the mercenary camp, okay, I'm gonna do that, but it's already like, it's irrelevant information by that point. So seeing the actual timestamp and like seeing the relevance of the message is helpful for sure. Also, as hero names will now display as hero icons. Was it really that hard to read hero names? I guess the icon would take up less space than a hero name, especially with the longer hero names, so I guess that makes sense, but that's not really relevant to me. I like the fact that you can actually move the chat box. What would be really nice, so, is the ability to resize it, because that would be nice. Like, why can't we resize it? If we can move it around, why can't we just resize it? Like, why? Just why? It makes no sense. But oh well, at least we can move it now. And you can double click, like if you mess up and you just want to reset it to the default position, you can just double click the arrow button and it will reset the chat box, so that's nice. General Battlegrounds. Hanamura has been temporarily removed from all game modes except custom games in order to undergo changes. Honestly, like, as much as everyone hates Hanamura, I never really felt that way. So I won't really, like, okay, it's removed, but like, I didn't think that the map was too bad. It was very unconventional. It was probably like the most unconventional map in Heroes so far, and that's probably why everyone hated it so much, and like, because there were like lots of cheesy strategies on it, but that's like what makes the game interesting, isn't it? That's why we play Heroes and not League of Legends, and we don't play just the same map over and over and over again, so that we can try different things, try different strategies, just play the game differently. And I never really understood that. Like, and I didn't understand why people didn't like Hanamura. To me, it was just awesome. but maybe I just understood it and that's what made it fun. Okay, map rotation update. The ranked map rotation has been updated to include the following: Braxis Holdout, Battlefield of Eternity, Sky Temple, Cursed Hollow, Blackheart's Bay, Towers of Doom, Warhead Junction, Dragonshire and Garden of Terror. Oh my god, we have so many maps in the game, I just realized it, that's incredible. That's actually really cool. Good job, Blizzard, good job. Cursed Hollow, audio and visual indicators have been added to alert players when there are 10 and 5 seconds remaining on the Raven Lord's curse. Oh my, this is such a good change. This is a very good quality of life change, because I can't really tell you how often people because the fort skips get completely disabled, so people decide that they can make risky moves, like they can dive the fort and things like that, because defenders lose their defenders advantage, because now the keeps towers don't fire, minions get one shot. So which is the right call too, like diving the enemy team in their base while they are cursed is the way to go. That's probably one of the better ways to utilize the curse. Obviously, if you are if you can do that, right? Like if you are 1v5, don't do that. That's bad. So now having those indicators for 10 and 5 seconds, it kind of eliminates the aspect of when people misjudged the time they had remaining on the curse, or maybe you get that engaged, you start fighting, and then the fight takes longer than expected. You thought that maybe you would kill some people in the first 10 seconds or whatever, but for some reason the fight lasts for 20-30 seconds, and now the curse faded. Now you will be you will be alerted when that happens, so that you can disengage safely, which is nice. That's a quality of life change, and that's always good in my opinion. It doesn't casualize games in my eyes, because what it actually does, it removes unnecessary management, and it allows you to focus on more important parts of the game, which are actually more fun. So it's kind of how I choose to view it, and I think that's how it is. But hey, Dragonshire, Dragon Knight, in general, he now deals double damage to minions. That's nice, because sometimes the Dragon Knight wouldn't kill minions, which I think he would actually. I don't remember. I feel like sometimes the Dragon Knight wouldn't one-shot the melee minions. I might be wrong here. But now he does double damage to minions, which probably includes his Dragon's Breath too, so you can clear waves much easier, and that can be helpful. Base health increased. Okay, so dragons are now more useful. They are harder to kill, which means you can do more damage initially. Starting duration increased from 50 to 55 seconds, and adjusted weapon swing to feel more responsive. Oh, that's nice, because sometimes you would mess up Dragon Knight's attacks. If you try to starter step as him, you would see the attack land, but it wouldn't actually land for some reason. And also if you combined it versus, let's say you had Murden on the enemy team with a Skullcracker, he would be able to easily disable your attacks of the Dragon Knight, much more often than he should, because there was just something wrong with the Dragon Knight's attack animation. It just felt kind of weird at times, but I'm glad that they now fix it. Flame Breath, Brace initial damage increased from 70 to 85, so the whole clearing minions easier aspect gets even better. And damage over time effect now happens in half the previous time. Total damage has not been changed. Oh my god. So so now Dragon Knight is actually a very effective team fighting tool, because your Flame Breath is stronger, and damage over time now happens in half the previous time. So what that means is, let's say it took 5 seconds for Flame Breath to burn out, now it will only take 2.5 seconds, but the damage would be the same, so you can kill things faster. So Dragon Knight definitely feels he is a lot more useful in team fights, at least from these changes. I would need to see it in the game. Okay, so his charge no longer has a 0.25 second damage delay after punting the target, and base damage increased from 300 to 450. Great. I mean, that's a good change, because sometimes when you would punch somebody with your charge, and let's say Rhaegar would land an Ancestral on them, but Rhaegar would miss it a little bit. So like you punt somebody as they start flying, so like you would assume that because they already started flying you killed them, but you actually didn't, because there is like a slight delay. So Rhaegar's Ancestral, even though he missed it, would still land on them, and then only your damage would trigger, which was sometimes annoying, things like that. And just increasing the base damage also kind of means that Savage Charge, instead of saving people, it might actually kill people more often now, so that's nice. That's probably a decent change. Oh my god, we are only halfway through the patch notes, this is crazy. Okay, so Ragnar's changes. Abilities: Living Meteor, damage reduced from 72 to 68. Okay, I mean there are probably other changes to the Living Meteor, because I can't imagine that they would just nerf it just because Ragnaros isn't really the greatest hero at the moment, so nerfing him doesn't make any sense. Blast Wave cooldown reduced from 10 to 9 seconds. Okay, I actually really liked Blast Wave build back when Ragnaros got released, so maybe this will be, maybe some of the changes would trigger the whole return of the Blast Wave build, because it was actually really fun to use. You would get shielding, you would get a lot of damage from it, and you would move super fast, so like you would reposition easier, you would engage easier, you would run away easier, good things like that. So let's actually read about his talent changes. So Shifting Meteor, it's a level 1 talent. Each time an enemy is hit by Living Meteor, they take an additional 3% damage from subsequent hits by the same meteor. So this is like not a new talent, this is an enhancement to the already existing talents that allows you to stack up your meteors in order to have control over them and extra duration on them. So this is actually a nice change. So now I understand why they had to reduce the damage for the Living Meteor, because with this talent it means that the damage will be actually kind of good, even with the nerf. So that's nice. Another talent, Engulfing Flame. Adjusted functionality no longer grants cooldown reduction on Blast Wave. Okay, so cooldown has been reduced by default, but now also increases damage of Blast Wave by 75%. I will definitely try out the E build now, the Blast Wave build, because the damage, 75% extra damage, seems really good. And I feel like the Blast Wave already had decent damage for what it does, because it would also offer you some movement speed, and now you can even increase that damage, and then later on in the talent pass you can acquire 2 Blast Waves, and then those blast Waves would give you shields. So that feels like a good change for him. I want to try out this build now. Level 7, Superheated removed. Oh, I see now. Okay, so scratch whatever I was talking about, because Superheated, what that talent did is when you would cast your Blast Wave onto Ragnaros, you would get a damage boost for it. Like Blast Waves on Ragnaros would hit much harder than Blast Waves on allied heroes, but now that's a level 1 talent, and it's weaker because it's not 100 bonus, it's 75. Interesting, so how does this work then? So for level 7 now we have blistering attacks. Every 10 seconds your next basic attack deals 60% bonus damage. Enemies hit by your basic abilities reduce this cooldown by 1 second. Okay, so you have focused attack on Ragnaros now. Okay. Molten Power damage bonus increased from 15 to 20% per enemy hero hit. So they actually buffing his Meteor build, which is fine, but I mean it's obviously good because that was actually the only good build at the moment. Like lately when I was playing Ragnaros, going anything but the Meteor build seemed like a bad idea. But with the consistent Meteors you were able to at least like harass the enemy team a little bit, poke them in, and then when the time would come you would try to finish them off with a Sulfurous Smash and whatnot. So buffing the whole Meteor build seems like a good idea, but at the same time it was already the best build for Ragnaros, so why aren't they buffing other things? That doesn't make sense to me. But I guess if they buff other things, then Ragnaros would again be like the best hero. Maybe he won't. because that's kind of how the game flows. It's not only about numbers, it's about what people are used to, what people are not used to, what's currently considered like the best tank, best healer. It kind of influences which assassins you also want to have, right? So I feel like if they just buff up Ragnaros's numbers, he won't just magically become the best hero in the game like he was kind of a while ago. It just won't happen because now the game has changed. So maybe they should experiment with changing other builds a little bit. Okay, and his level 20 Lava Surge cooldown reduction increased from 10 to 30 seconds. Well, that's nice. That actually kinda makes me want to try out the whole Lava Wave thing. Because the cooldown reduction of 10 seconds was almost irrelevant. Like what Lava Surge does for you, you now have 2 charges of Lava Wave and lesser cooldown, and now the cooldown has been buffed to 30 seconds, which means you can consistently clear waves instead of just every once in a while. So maybe that's actually a good thing. And obviously what's kind of good about Lava Wave in a teamfight scenario is that you can defend your base much easier. Because not only you would clear the wave that's pushing in, so like enemy team would need to wait for another wave for the next 30 seconds or whatever, or they would need, actually it's more than 30 seconds because it would kill also the waves that come from the base, so the new wave would need to spawn in the first place and then march all the way through the map, and only then the enemy team would be able to start like sieging you again. So maybe Lava Surge is actually not that bad, that bad right now, at least at level 20 with that upgrade, but picking ultimates because of their level 20 upgrade isn't always the best idea, because sometimes you need to win the game much faster than level 20. Okay, the Butcher, so these are the nerfs for him, I think. So his basic attack damage has been lowered by 10. Yep, that's a nerf, that's a huge nerf. Then abilities, fresh meat required to complete his quest increased from 125 to 200. Damage bonus per meat stack decreased from 1 to 0.5 damage. Meat dropped by enemy heroes increased from 5 to 25. Bonus damage on quest completion increased from 100 to 125. And once the quest is completed, enemy heroes continue to drop meat, giving the Butcher 5 permanent basic attack damage per meat collected. And the talent Abattoir has been removed. So this is like a buff and the nerf at the same time. The nerf is his raw damage output. His raw damage output has been completely just devastated. Not only you have less basic attack damage, you also get less damage for completing the quest. Because what you would get 225 extra damage, and now what you would get is actually no, you get the same amount. Huh, interesting. Yeah, you get the exactly same amount. I don't know what I was talking about, I'm sorry. You get yeah, but you stack it differently. Like now you actually need to kill heroes, and if you get to do that, that's incredible. It's kind of like Nova with her bribe, because if Nova doesn't kill heroes, her bribe is much worse than other heroes' bribes, but if you just feed Nova takedowns over and over and over again and she gets to stay in lane, her bribe will stack up much faster, so she can actually use it more often than other heroes. So the Butcher now has kind of the same change to him where yes, he can just farm minions for the whole game to get that damage, to get that quest stacked up, or he can just get a couple of kills on heroes and be done in the first 5 minutes of the game if you let him. So when playing against Butcher, I guess try not to die next to him. Like now it's much more important not to die next to Butcher, because there is a huge difference between getting 5 meat and 25 meat from heroes, right? But it was also a buff for Butcher, because since Abattoir is removed and it's now just in his basic kit, you always get that 5 permanent basic attack damage when you kill heroes after your quest is done. Now you can choose other talents at level 1, and there are some really great choices. I can't really remember them from like the top of my head, but I think there are the choices where you would just... I don't remember, I'm sorry, I don't remember, but I remember that the level like 1 talent tier for Butcher was actually highly, there were some really nice talents, but Abattoir was just so much better than all of the other choices, so I would always choose this one. But other things are also really strong, so I'm kind of interested in how the Butcher changes now, because it has potential with the whole baseline permanent basic damage, and if there are actually really good level 1 choices, then Butcher can be really hard to deal with. Okay, Probius Worker Rush. Worker Rush can no longer be activated while the Worker Rush buff is active. This will prevent players from accidentally placing the ability on cooldown when leaving the Hull of Storms. Quality of life, good stuff. Support Oriel. Oriel's resource bar will now glow when at maximum hope. It would also glow for your allies. Good quality of life change. Just a reminder, a slight reminder for, I don't know, for Oriel or for her allies that she can drop a giant heal on you, so maybe do something crazy so that she can heal you. Warrior Diva, level 4 talent, Diverting Power. Instead of preventing Diva from moving during defense metrics, this talent now adds an additional 50% slow. So what this talent also does is, I think, it increases the area of her defense metrics, but it would like lock her in one place for the duration of it. It could be cancelled, but like you would just stand there. Now you can actually move around, but with a 50% slow. I think it's a good change because I never really took that talent because of that whole aspect of standing in one place, but now having that more area of effect can be helpful, since you can reposition it at least a little bit, so that can be nice. Okay, Sonya Whirlwind. The time required after activation before the ability can be cancelled has been increased from 0.5 to 1 second. This should help prevent accidental cancellations. Okay, this is actually a huge nerf, because as Sonya, you have your trait which allows you to move faster after you hit enemies with your abilities. So sometimes what you would do is you would activate your Whirlwind in order to catch up to somebody, and usually kind of what you would do, you would activate it, and let's say if you have certain talents picked up, like you have your focused attack and things like that, and they're already, you would activate your Whirlwind, try to clip somebody so that you can get that extra speed boost. You will catch up to somebody really fast, and then you immediately cancel Whirlwind and land an auto attack to kill them. Now it will take 1 second to do that instead of 0.5, which in my opinion is a huge nerf to Sonya. Because now that hero that you would otherwise kill with your auto attack, hitting for like 400 damage or whatever, now they would get healed or like saved by something. Like it opens up the possibility for that. So in my opinion, this is a nerf to Sonya. But I guess if people cancel her Whirlwind a lot, and I also did that like sometimes, so I understand the change, but it also disables one of the cooler, I guess, plays you can make as Sonya with the whole Whirlwind cancellation, which I'm not really happy about, to be honest. This is a bad change. It's kind of a nerf, and there are just cosmetic changes, bug fixes, all of the good stuff. So this actually took much longer than I expected. Wow. I don't know, like let me know if this is something you are interested in listening to, because I mean, I know that I am sometimes lazy, like too lazy to read patch notes or whatever, so I would just pop up somebody's video on it and just let them talk about it, let them analyze it for me, something like that. So I hope I didn't bore you to death. I tried to keep it like as fast as possible and try to talk as much as possible at the same time so that I can be as informative as possible, you know? But maybe I messed up somewhere or something like that, so yeah. But these were patch notes. Which ones was it? 17.0? No, 27.0 patch. August 8th, 2017. So if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing, and as always guys, thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.